You're live.
Oh, there. Do I need to hold it?
It should.
Okay.
You're
Okay. I
good to
think
go.
it's good.
You're good to go.
All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome to Unapologetically Me. I am your host, Brandi, and I have some interesting topics today. I'm mostly going to bring up some posts that I saw on Instagram or Facebook about things that either women have said. There is a couple of podcasts or Instagram live males that I'm going to bring up and talk about some stuff that they've said or posted or just whether or not we should take their advice. Um the you I'm on Facebook live as well right now, so if you are watching and you want to comment, go ahead and share your comments and I'll discuss those as well. So I'm trying to think if anything interesting has gone on. I think it's been like 3 weeks since I've recorded, maybe even a month. But my last episode was really good. So if you have not listened to it, go check it out. It was with Two Bottles Deep. And it was really good, just talking about different topics and getting different perspectives and opinions on cancel culture, on how to handle issues when something comes up. Like I think on there I talked about my daughter reading a book and it was a story about a story about a transgender girl and just like how to handle stuff like that whenever that comes up. So it's a really good episode. So go check it out. It's on Spotify and Apple, I believe, as well. So Apple, you can check it out on either one of those. Also on SDP Networks where I record, you can check it out on there. So the first thing that I want to go over is there is a guy, Kevin Samuels. He has a YouTube channel, Instagram, and I think he might have something else that he goes live on. And then there's another podcast. It's called Fresh and Fit Podcast. So Kevin Samuels, he's a 50-year-old divorcee with, I think he might have been divorced more than once, but he will go on Instagram live and he will speak with women that want high value. I think it's high dollar value men. So not necessarily just high value men, but high dollar value men. And he'll have conversations with them about their standards and about how they're not going to be able to get somebody who's a high dollar value man based off of where they're at and their status in life. And then the Fresh Fit podcast, they kind of do the same thing, but they bring like sometimes a group of women to come on and just get their perspective on the different topics and stuff. And so initially, like I listened to Kevin Samuels, my husband had sent me one of his YouTubes and I was like, first of all, who is this guy to be giving any type of advice on relationships because he's 50 years old. Not because he's 50, but he's like 50 and has been divorced on more than one occasion, I believe. So I was like, who is he to be telling women like what to do or how they should get into a relationship or whatever. And there was one episode that I listened to, which I think I've said this before, that really like stuck with me. And I was just like, okay, now I get it. Um, and so it was just really a really interesting episode and it made me shift my whole perspective on what exactly he was doing. And it's the same with the Fresh and Fit podcast. Like they are giving their perspective. They're not giving anybody relationship advice. They're not telling you how or what to do. They're simply explaining from a man's perspective, a generalization. Obviously, there's always an exception to the rule. Um, so they're just explaining from a man's perspective what certain things look like, and if you have certain expectations as a woman, those expectations for that specific man, he also has expectations for the woman that he's looking for. So I said all that to preface some of the things that I'm going to go over and kind of why I feel the way that I do about them. So the first one, I saw this post on Instagram and it was a meme that said, "Nobody goes through more stuff than a good woman that's down to do anything for the wrong man." And of course, there's all these women going on there on the comments talking about, yeah, that's right. I do anything. I'm a ride or die, blah, 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 blah. But for me, I just thought, like, okay, nobody goes through more stuff than a good woman that's down to do anything for the wrong man. If you choose to do stuff for the wrong man, how is that his fault? Like if you put yourself in that, not saying initially, because initially you may not know, but if you're with a man who continuously is doing things showing you that he's not the right person for you, and you continue to stand by him and you're going through all this drama and trauma, like whose fault is that really? Is that his fault for putting you through it, or is that your fault for staying in it? Because at the end of the day, you always have a choice to make. So you might think you can change him. You might think things might change. He might tell you things are going to change. And I get the whole cycle of mental abuse where maybe he is telling you that that stuff is going to change and he is going to do something differently. And he doesn't always do that. But at some point, we have to accept responsibility and we have to make a decision to put ourselves in a better situation. So, even if you're not watching this live, I still would love to see your comments on this if you watch it later and have a discussion about it. Because for me, I just feel like if you choose to put yourself in that situation, like you wouldn't have to go through all that if you removed yourself from the situation. People are going to treat us how we allow them to. So it's up to us to remove ourselves from that situation and put ourselves in a better situation. Any thoughts on that, producer?
No. No, that was well said. No, I like it.
Okay. And this next one is kind of the same scenario. But it was posted by a female as well. I just think it's interesting that, not to say that females are not ever a victim, but the victim mentality of how we constantly want to blame another person or another male. And not that females are the only ones that have this issue, but especially when it comes to men, we always want to blame them for situations that we stay in or the way that we let them treat us. So this one says, has someone ever messed up your head so much that you can't even be happy anymore? Because all you do is sit there and think about what you did to deserve what they did, which again, it still boils down to the same thing. In that scenario, for me, it feels like what you did was allow them to continue treating you a certain way. So, which, and again, I get that there are narcissistic people that can mess with your head and they can cause you to feel a certain way or do certain things that if you were in the right headspace, that maybe you wouldn't do. But again, that's when it's up to you to go find the help to deal with your mental health, to not be upset and not sit there and wonder what you did for this person to do that to you. Because at the end of the day, what they did to you and how they treated you was not about you. It's about them and their own issues that they have. So you're wasting your time sitting there wondering what you did to them for them to do that stuff to you, because I'm not gonna say you didn't do anything because I don't know, maybe you did. But a lot of times people do things based off their childhood trauma. So somewhere in there, maybe they had a bad relationship with another woman, maybe they had a bad relationship with their mother. And so they are what's that word? They're what is that called? I can't remember the exact word, but basically they're putting that off on you and you're getting all the flack for something that happened to them previously. So no, you may not have actually did anything, but there's a few things that you could do in that scenario. You could leave. You could try and talk to them about it, about like what, not always if they're narcissistic, but maybe if they had something else going on. Kind of try to understand like why are you doing this? Like what is going on inside of you that's making you act this way, and try to understand like where they're coming from, because like I said, 9 times out of 10 it's probably some past trauma that they're dealing with, and then you're just getting the backlash of that. So if there's somebody that you can communicate with and have a conversation with, then try to dissect and get to the bottom of what the issue is. And then if you can't, then again, you can leave and remove yourself from the situation. Let's see. Another one. Oh, that's the one I already did. Another one. This one I thought was interesting, and I actually responded. And then I'm gonna give y'all a whole little spiel on this. Okay, so this lady posted this meme that said, "High status women don't ask, what if I'm not good enough for him? High status women do ask, is he good enough for me?" And so I commented, and I was just like, I think that we should ask if we're good enough for him, because like I said earlier, if we have this expectation of the type of man that we want, we have to be the type of woman that he wants. So if you don't ask, and I when I commented, I told her that maybe like good enough is not the correct term. But I just said, like, we have to make sure that whatever we're asking for, we're able to reciprocate. And we kind of went back and forth. And then she ended up saying like that she was talking more about women who don't stick up for themselves, and they kind of just let people walk all over them and treat them however they want. So I was like, okay, well, in that context, then that makes sense. But I think it probably needs to be reworded because, again, like if you're just asking if is he good enough for me, like to me that just gives off the perception of like I'm better than you and you're going to meet like my standards, but I don't necessarily have to meet your standards. Which she did also say, like when we were going back and forth, that she definitely thinks like you have to be on the same page. So I just think that that one needed to be reworded. Um, but even with her comment too, or her post, it was like high status women, which I don't really know what it would be considered a woman, because when you if you listen to Kevin Samuels or even the Fresh and Fit podcast, a lot of women that they have on there are considered high status women. So most of them basically have their own career and have a really good paying job. Um, not their own career, their own business, or they have a really good paying job where they're making like six figures. So a lot of times the women will come on those shows and they will say that they are a high value woman. Excuse me, gosh. And what we consider as a woman, a high value woman, is somebody that maybe has a degree, you have a good paying job, you have your own car, you have your own house. But I was listening to the Fresh and Fit podcast yesterday, and I just think what he said made sense. He was like, all of those things are great, but that's not what men look for, because men don't need somebody that can take care of them and that are there to provide for them. For women, not all women, but for women that want a high dollar value man, they are looking for a provider. They're looking for somebody to take care of them. So the college degree, the good paying job, the house, the car, all of those things are attractive for a woman who's looking for a high dollar value man. But that is not necessarily the case for any man, even if he's not looking for a high value dollar woman. Those things, he might think that they're cool, but in reality, he really wants like who's going to support me as like emotionally and physically, and who's going to, if we have kids, like take care of the kids, who's going to clean the house. And not saying you have to go back to the 50s and you can't work and all you're going to do is stay at home, but they're not looking for you to provide for them financially. So that's the difference. And I think a lot of women that have these attributes of their own house, their own car, a really good paying job, we get stuck in this mentality. And I know, because I used to say this, I didn't have my own house, but I could afford my own apartment. And I used to tell my husband this all the time when we first got together, like, and to me, I thought it was, like, very sweet and, like, I'm telling you this because, like, I care, and now I realize it's kind of the opposite effect, but I would tell him all the time, like, "I don't need you. I want you. I'm here because I want to be with you." And to me, I was like, "That should make you feel better because I'm not here because I need something from you." But the thing is, oh, it cut me out again. Hello? Hello?
Sorry,
Okay,
sorry.
sorry. But the thing is that they want to hear that they're needed. Like that's what boosts their ego. That's what makes them feel wanted and loved. And to me, I thought like, okay, well, isn't it nice that I'm here because I want to be here, not because I need to be here? And it was the complete opposite of that. It was like, no, I want you to not necessarily need me, but like don't tell me that you don't need me. And I think a lot of women, that when we have a degree and we can afford our own things, like that's how we feel. But that's a turnoff to a man who wants to be a provider. If you have a man that doesn't want to be a provider, it's probably perfect for him. But if you want a man who wants to be a provider and he wants to be that, telling him that, oh, I don't need a man to take care of me. I can take care of myself. I don't need you. That's a complete turn off for him. So if you're saying that and you're wondering why you can't get a man, that might be why. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Sure, all the feminists will hate me now, but it's okay. Any thoughts on that one? Would you
No,
let
that's
me?
spot on.
Do you think? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, me and Kristen have had similar conversations. I mean, not exactly, but it is it is nice to be needed.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah. So
Or not even needed, but just I guess like what you said the last time, like not necessarily saying you're here. I don't know. I hear what you're saying, and I also have been on the receiving end. Like I know you don't have to have anything from me, but
right.
it is nice to know that we got each other,
Yeah.
or like we got each other's back and stuff like that. So I think just verbalizing that can go a long way.
Do you think that it hurts a man's ego if you tell him like I don't need you?
Probably. I mean, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even if we know that, it's just like I'd rather not like hear
Just
that a
don't tell
lot.
me.
Like we know, but we don't need to be reminded all the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
But yeah, and having an independent, strong woman, like that's kind of what I mean. That's what you want too. So
Yeah. And I think there has to be a balance. Like you want her to be strong and independent so that you don't necessarily feel like so much pressure that you have to do all of these things and you have to be the everything and you have to
right,
like that's the only thing that she depends on. But I think the way that women present it has to be in a way of like, yes, I'm independent and I can take care of myself, but I love having you here to take care of me
right,
or something like in that sense, which I
yeah,
was
and
so
just
bad
being a
about.
team. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess like the team aspect is like, yeah,
Yeah. I was
really.
really bad about that. I was all on the I don't need you. I'm here because I want to be here. That didn't go over well. So I've learned my lesson.
I feel that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's true. And I get it. And I get women wanting to be like, oh, I'm an independent woman and I can take care of myself. But like, if you don't want to be alone for the rest of your life, you probably should keep that to yourself. Just letting you know.
It's good
Um,
advice.
and again, that's a generalization. I am not saying that there aren't men out there who don't love a woman who says all those things, or also heard this on Fresh and Fit. They might just not tell you because it would be politically incorrect because we're on the whole independent woman thing. So they're not going to tell you that they don't like it. They're either just going to not be with you, or if they are not a confident man, they'll just stick it, they'll just stick with you and just not say anything. And then you might have problems later on. So,
Yeah, that's
so
true. Yeah.
yeah. So just FYI for the males out there, if you are that male who doesn't like that, then you better speak up or you might get stuck with something you don't want to be with.
That's fair.
Okay. And then I have another one. So this one is not related to men and women. This is more of women to women. It's this lady. I'm not really sure. I feel like she's an Instagram influencer. I'm not really sure in what. But she made a post that said, when a 20-year-old fitness influencer tells me, single mom of two, that we have the same 24 hours in a day. And so in the picture, it's like her with her kid behind her and like a million toys. And she was like, "Yep, I totally see it." And so I was trying to figure out, like, okay, how do I say this in a way that I don't sound like a douchebag? Because I feel like that's an excuse that everybody gives. It's like, oh, well, I have not even necessarily kids, but they just find every excuse to not do something productive that they want to do in their life. And so I don't think I saved I should have saved like the comments because this one lady like made the best comment on there. And because I was like, I'm trying to think of like how can I say this in a way that like doesn't come across like super judgy or whatever. But I'm gonna give you my opinion on that while I'm trying to find her actual post because I want to say what the one lady said. But I just everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. The difference is what you do with that 24 hours. Like you can make excuses and you cannot prioritize yourself. You cannot prioritize your health. You cannot prioritize your time with your spouse, your time with your friends. But you still have the same 24 hours in a day. It doesn't matter if you're single mom with two kids. It doesn't matter if you're single and young with no kids. Like you still, because I know people that um don't have any kids and still don't do anything with their life. I know people that have 4 kids and are killing it. So it's like, is that really the issue? Like whether or not you're young and don't have kids or a single mom and have 2 kids, or is it a matter of how you're prioritizing your 24 hours? Because to me, it's how you're prioritizing your
Yeah,
24
I was
hours.
about to say definitely the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I get like so my brother, he now he went from being single to having a wife and 2 kids and a baby on the way in like less than a year.
Oh my.
And yeah, he had been single for 2 years, I think. But the funny thing was that he was always busy. Like his entire 24 hours was taken up by stuff. And he would tell me, like, man, I can't imagine like he's like, you're always so busy and you have a kid. But like we were both always busy and we were both always doing productive stuff. And so obviously he's had to make adjustments to how he prioritizes his 24 hours, but he hasn't stopped working on any of the stuff that he was working on before. He still focuses on his health. He still focuses on his business. He now just finds that time to also spend with his family. So he didn't, it changed and he might have had to change his priorities, but we still have the same 24 hours.
Right.
So what this lady said was, this is a lady that responded to the comment. She said 24 hours in a day looks different for each of us. Those with children, without children, married, single, chronically ill, healthy, employed, unemployed, etc. So yes, it is true there are 24 hours in every single day, but what we do with them, how we do it within those 24 hours is vastly different for all of us. And I was just like, that's exactly what I wanted to say. It just would not have came out that good. It would have came out very douchebaggish. So, but I really love that because it's just, she made my point. Like, it doesn't matter what's going on with your life. We all have to choose what's a priority to us and what we want to focus on. And if you choose to waste that 24 hours, you can't blame it on your kids because, like I said, there's people with 4, 5, 6 kids that are killing it every single day. So that's just an excuse because you choose to not do something productive with your life. And I'm not saying like the lady that made that post, I don't know what she does. She doesn't really necessarily have like a tagline of saying what her job is. Oh, okay. I guess she was a doctor or is a doctor, and she teaches exhausted parents brain-based sensory regulation.
Nice.
Don't exactly know what that means, but I'm assuming it's basically how to deal with your kids and not kill them, which is great. But like I said, I mean, there's definitely, so she clearly like prioritizes her day to be able to do certain things. So I just thought that that was interesting, because I feel like that's just another way to, and I don't know, like I didn't see the 20-year-old's post, so I don't know like what the context behind her post was, which I wish that lady would have posted that too. Well, she's just, I don't think she made a post. I think she just told that lady that. So I don't know what that conversation looked like, but I would like to know because I also think that makes a difference. What was the context of what that 20-year-old said? Like, why did she make that comment? What were you guys talking about? Because the context of the conversation also makes all the difference. And her just putting that out there with no context, it just, again, turns into one of those, I'm going to put women against each other instead of bringing women together. So it's just a way to create an unnecessary catty fight for no reason. So yeah. Anything you want to add to any of those things?
No, I agree with what you said completely. I mean, it really is just prioritization and making excuses if you don't have enough time, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so that was all of the posts for today. I highly recommend, before you're just like, this girl sucks and doesn't know what she's talking about and she's not for women, go listen. I could so oh, there was a guy that I guess Kevin Samuels, I didn't see this either, but I guess he made a comment or a post about not going on dates before 5 p.m. Um, Again, I don't know the context of the whole video. I guess it's just a clip that's going around. And so this other guy that like he's a Christian relationship something. And so he, of course, made a post about Kevin Samuel's post and it was just talking about the clip. So again, you're missing context, but he was like any guy who says something about not going on dates, but because I guess Kevin Samuels was saying if you go on a date after 5, the guy is just looking to have sex. I'm assuming that's what he was
Mm.
saying based off what the other guy said. And so that guy that posted about the clip was basically saying that Kevin Samuels was wrong and people should be able to go out on dates after 5. And so of course all these women jumped on and like, yeah, that's right, and that's stupid if he said that or whatever. But without the context of like what came, because somebody even went on there was like, did you watch the whole entire video? Because there's context behind what he said. And he was like, well, no, I just watched the clip. How are you going to make a post based off of 2-second clip on what this guy said and you don't know the context around it?
Exactly.
So I, of course, went on there and made a comment. I can't really remember what I said at this point, but I did say at the end, well, I did say, I was like, one, like I said this earlier, when you listen to Kevin Samuels, like you have to, especially as a woman, you have to go in with an open mind and you have to understand the point of view that he's trying to present. He's not trying to tell women what to do, how to do it, because he will continuously say, you can do whatever you want. Nobody's telling you you can or can't do something. I am simply telling you that if you do this, that this is how men are going to respond. This is how they're going to react. This is how they're going to perceive it. Not all men, because he mostly speaks about women that want high dollar value men. He mostly speaks to those women that want those type of men. He's not speaking to the general public of people who are on the same playing field. He's usually talking to women that may not be high value women or making a bunch of money, or even if they have like no money and they want these high value dollar men. So he's not always speaking to the general public. So that's the one thing that you have to understand. And the second thing is that he, again, is not telling you as a woman what to do and what not to do. He's just simply telling you, if you do this, if you do XYZ, this is how, if you have a boyfriend or a husband, this is how he's going to respond. This is how he's going to perceive it. And the same thing with the Fresh and Fit podcast. They are doing the same exact thing. And I said all that to say, oh, so that guy made that post. So I just went on there and said, like you have to listen to him with an open mind, because I was very skeptical at first. Um, but if you listen and you understand that he's coming from a male perspective to explain to you what men see, that makes all the difference. And you can take the things that apply to you and use them. The things that don't apply, then you leave it. Like, I mean, me and my husband had already been married, obviously, by the time that we were listening to this. So he's not, I don't have a high value dollar man yet. So, but some of the things like still apply, like, especially they talk a lot about the masculine and feminine energy, which I'm not going to get into all that, but I should do that on another podcast. But I, for a multitude of reasons, have a very masculine energy. And so that has been like an issue forever. And I was just like, to me, I didn't understand. I'm like, I don't understand the problem. Like, this is just the way I am. But after not even just listening to Kevin Samuels, but a few other things, like I did a Reiki session and we talked about the masculine energy. Men don't want a masculine woman. And I'm not talking about the way that they look. I'm talking about the way that they talk. I'm talking about the way that they handle things, the way that they speak to their husband. And so, like, that was something that I have been working on to, like, and you don't have to be feminine in the way of like all gushy and gooey, but just like not talking down to them, not being condescending, not talking to them like a kid, which can be frustrating, when you've repeated yourself 20 times and they still don't get it. But it just makes the relationship and the communication so much better when you are able to do that. So I said all that to say that that's what I basically said on the comment. And then I did also say there are other types of dates besides going out after 5. Like there's breakfast dates, which I have learned that women absolutely love. There's lunch dates. You can go for coffee dates. You can go on an exercise date. So again, I don't know what the context of what Kevin Samuel said. Now I'm gonna have to go look to find out because I'm interested. But I think that women should listen to him, and I think that they should be open to the things that he's trying to explain, because it's really interesting and it's very eye opening, and it's also very difficult for women who are like, I'm an independent woman, hear me roar. They have a difficult time accepting what he's saying because we want to be independent women, because why not? So that is all for today. If you are in the Rutherford County area, we are having a health fair at Championtown Fitness on February 19th. It will be from 11 to 1, and we have let me see, Plush Skincare will be there. We have Ascension Healthcare will be there. We have Champion Spin will be there. What is this other one? Something Hastings. I can't really see it that great. But there will be, Dr. Amber Brown. She is a pregnancy health coach. So we got some good vendors that are going to be there. We're also going to be giving away 2 $50 gift cards and some other door prizes. So if you are in that area, definitely come out and see us. We'd love to have you. And remember, you always have a choice.